Good morning, everybody. It's so quiet and so quiet. Ba, 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 ba. Good morning, Alyssa. How are you doing? Doing well? Good. Hey, Angel. Change this to what I have over there. I mean, technically, he made a law that said that furloughed people need to get paid back pay. So, there we go. Hey, KJ. Trump just called. Of course he did. Over under 35 days. I think when it happened, I guessed around 21. The fact that airports are already starting to shut down because of lack of air traffic controllers makes me think that's still a possibility. I mean, again, Trump calling for any of that is not a surprise, if we're being honest. I hope it is less than 35 days. 35 days is a long time. It would be, if it's more than 35 days, it'll be the longest in history. And it was pretty bad for a lot of people when the 35-day one happened under his first term. Hey, Clara. The House not meeting probably isn't helping that timeline. I mean, it still comes down to if the GOP are unwilling to negotiate, which they have been unwilling to negotiate, then what are they going to do? Every industry is feeling the pain from this administration. Yes, Vertify. Hey, Lori. Feel like he'll want to break his own record. He does like having records. He does like having records. No, it was not a clean resolution. There was stuff that was changed when they signed the big beautiful bill. There was stuff that was changed when Trump unilaterally stopped funding groups. So no, it's literally impossible that it's a clean bill because they are already not using money in the ways that it was originally designated. PBS, that was originally funded before Trump took it away. So no, they're calling it a clean resolution, but it's not. We're not paying for non-citizens. Undocumented immigrants do not qualify for any federal health care. The only thing that they can get is via EMTALA, which all citizens get. Like all people get. EMTALA just means if you are in an emergency and you go to an emergency room, they will stabilize you no matter whether you have health care or not. And Medicaid helps pay, Medicaid funds pay for EMTALA services, for services via EMTALA. That's it. They get yeah, everyone gets it, whether you have health insurance or not. Everyone. Literally everyone. American citizens get it, whether they have health insurance or not. People that are visiting get it, whether they have health insurance or not. If you're just visiting this country and you have to go to emergency services, you get it. Nope. 5% Democrat, tops. 95% Republican. But nice try. Hey, Clara. Correct. Even tourists get EMTALA. Yep. Why not expect our Congress to give up their paychecks? We can expect it all they want. They're the ones that get to make those decisions. So what happens when you just keep voting people in. As long as we just keep voting people through in primaries that keep being willing to do stuff like this, this is the kind of stuff that we're going to get. Hey, Melissa. No, the Republicans' job is to get it passed. They're the majority. And their job, if they don't have enough votes, is to negotiate to get the votes. User blah, 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 blah. We need age limits, and the Supreme Court needs term limits. Correct. I 100% agree. I never understood how they could vote on their own raises. Welcome to America. Yeah, Melissa, it was pretty nuts. Nope. Living the life. The Republicans own all three branches. It's their job to get it passed. If they don't have enough votes, it's their job to negotiate with the people that aren't willing to vote for it to get those votes. They chose not to do it. They chose to try and play hardball, assuming that they would do the same thing they did in March. Democrats want American citizens' health care back. They want to make it so American citizens aren't paying double their premiums. Guess it's not so affordable. Well, yeah, when you get rid of the whole purpose of the Affordable Care Act, the subsidies, sure. Double the premiums. They've already said that premiums are going to increase by 100%. 114% in some cases. Without the Affordable Care Act subsidies. Bet none of, no, there is no way, Prairie Lady. Who said that? No, the insurance company said that. People are already getting told what their new premiums are going to be. Why would you like to know what I pay? I've got private insurance. What's your point? Our insurance rates are going to go up too. Private insurance rates will go up if things like the ACA subsidies do not stay in effect. Private insurance premiums will go up. I guarantee if they cut the politicians' pay, they would work together. Possibly. Possibly. You might be right, living the life. And I appreciate you saying that. Nope, not Democratic, but paying so much in insurance, why not have universal health care by now? That's a good question. Who voted for it? I didn't vote for it. More money, everything goes up. Been to California. Nope, it's not. That's not how. Nope, that's not how it works. But nope, it has nothing to do with Democrats demanding power. It's how negotiations work. Welcome to the real world. Who cares? The people that are working and not getting paid, the people that aren't working and not getting paid, they care. Egg leg hunter. Nobody I know. Oh, well then, if nobody you know cares, then obviously we shouldn't be talking about this. Who works and doesn't get paid? People in the federal government who are doing jobs that are considered necessary. Air traffic controllers, TSA agents, military. They get up and go to work. Who cares? Who cares that people are working for no pay? Bye, Peg Leg Hunter. Bye. Bye. Tell Democrat No, I'm telling the GOP to do their job and negotiate to get a budget passed. They will get back pay. Not if what the threat is happening. They're threatening to not pay furloughed employees back pay. They have passed a bill. No, we're in a government shutdown, so they haven't passed a bill. Actually, the GOP does need 8 Democrats to pass it because there's a thing called a filibuster. Hello, Texas firefighter. They cannot file unemployment. They are not unemployed. They are furloughed. That's different. It is not a clean CR. The big, beautiful bill changed what was being funded. And this Trump administration changed things that are being funded. So no, it's not a clean CR, no matter what they say. Who gets to decide what waste is? User blah, blah, blah. Democrats acting like we have money to fund. Kiddo, go to your paying job. User blah, blah, blah. Go to your paying job. Elections have consequences. And what's your point? I think they will, Melissa. This is what we voted for. I didn't vote for it. No, not Democrats, but fine. Hey, Jeremiah. How are you? Hey, Captain. By the way, for everyone that's over on TikTok, I go live here and on the tube at the same time. You should go over there. Where's that 17 trillion? Seriously. That's a good question, Shellbell. Good question. Do you know Obama didn't shut down the government for healthcare? But, you know, way to not actually understand what was going on in the government at that moment. Good. Hey, Patty. Oh, I never said the government didn't shut down. It sure did. And it definitely had to do with the Affordable Care Act. Also true. But that's about it. You're right. I am biased. So are you, Augustine. We're all biased. And of course, it does matter what I say. To me. This is my channel. I can say whatever I want on my channel. I can talk about whatever I want on my channel. It was because of the ACA. The Senate controlled, the Republican controlled Senate wanted to get rid of the ACA. And they shut down the government. Thank you, Blue Girl. I appreciate that. I think that if anything has the capability of reopening it, it will be the lack of air traffic controllers since there was already a shortage. Yes. I mean, everybody is biased. We all look at things from our own experiences. But I also am willing to admit when I'm wrong. I'm also willing to listen to other perspectives and not just deny them because they're not the way I see the world. That's the most unbiased a person has the capability of being. What does GOP mean? Technically, it means Grand Old Party, Wizard, but it's the Republicans. It's the Republican Party. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. Guys, if you wouldn't mind considering going over and following on the tube, at least just following and watching the content over there, you don't have to go to the live, although I would appreciate it. It would mean a lot to me. I'm trying to be able to monetize the stuff I do over there. And I've got so many new episodes coming up, guys. I'm doing like 3 recordings a week that I'm going to be pumping out. There's so much stuff that's going to be coming out over there on the tube. And I think some of it's some really good stuff. Like I interviewed a small business owner that just posted yesterday. I think it was a really good episode. and we need to support our small businesses. So should we just get a clean So here's the problem with a clean CR. So here's the problem with all of this, Texas firefighter. I appreciate you asking, and I think it's an important question to. Yes, it's the same, Tanya. Yep, it's an important question to ask. A clean CR is impossible because the big beautiful bill made changes, because Trump defunded things in the last 9 months, 8 months, 9 months. So no CR would be clean, no matter what. And B, they've had a year to create a budget, and they've only gotten 3 of them done. 3 of the 12. What makes anybody think that they can go from only getting 3 done in 9 months to getting getting everything done in 7 more weeks? Yes, I read the CR, and I also know what is being funded and what isn't. It doesn't matter what the CR says. It's not a clean if the things that the original one funded is no longer actually being funded. If PBS is no longer being funded, it cannot be a clean CR. Okay? If things like PBS or USAID are no longer being funded, then it is not a clean CR. Because the one that they signed in March funded those things. In the end, they are just trying to force the Democrats to do this. They don't want to negotiate. Who's to say they will decide to negotiate in 7 weeks? Who's to say they won't do the exact same thing? Thank you. Who's to say they won't do the exact same thing in 7 weeks that they're doing right now? They can claim it as a clean CR, but it isn't. That's correct, Jill. It's correct. Oh, I mean, yeah, they're going to blame the Democrats either way. Yep. Nope. Nope. Again, it's not a clean CR if it's not funding the exact same way as it was. It is not a clean CR. You deciding that those agencies are corrupt does not make them corrupt. How do elections run? Elections are state run, Sonia. Hey, Brianna. So the clean, so the 9 are different than the clean CR, if it were any CR, a continuing resolution keeps funding where it is at to however long it goes to. Past that, there are budget bills. So there are budget bills, and there are 12 different areas that need to be funded in this government. And there are 12 separate bills. Only 3 of them have made it through the House, I believe. I don't know if you've made it through the Senate, the 3 of them. Only 3 of the 12 have made it through the House for the actual budget. Not a CR, but the actual budget. So the thing that they were supposed to pass by October 1st to prevent the government from shutting down. Hi, Kia. I'm sorry. Hello, sis. I'm sorry. I love you. I'm sorry. Hey, Akasha. And hi, Theory. Better start making your rounds. Seriously. If I call shutdown the other party's fault, I win? No. There's no win or lose in a shutdown. Everyone's got some fault. Yes, there is a tiny bit of fault in for the Democrats. 5%. But the fact is the way a government works, the way the government works is you have two parties. You have the majority and the minority. The majority puts forth a bill. If they need minority support to pass the bill, they have to work with them to get it passed. They don't have to like it. They don't have to agree with it. But that's still a requirement. They chose to not work with the minority party at all and try and force them to sign it and use the threat of a shutdown to get them to force them to sign it, like they did in March. Hey, Aaron. Aloha. Are you in Hawaii, Akasha, or are you just saying aloha? How do you think it will turn out? I think in the end, the ACA subsidies will get thrown back in. How long it will take, I don't know, but I think they will. I always prefer on the tube, Abby, because I'm trying to get my numbers up over there. Good morning, Mila. Gotta pump those numbers. You want to be able to do things for a living, you sure do. Mike Johnson yapping about Bad Bunny. Did he yap about Bad Bunny? That's funny if he did. Is this shutdown playing into Project 2025's hands? I mean, we'll have to see how it turns out, but yes, same username, Morgan. Yep. I have a lot of patients on ACA without would be devastating. Yeah. Maui. Ooh. I've been to the Big Island. I really loved going to the Big Island. Man, you're up early or you're up late. Which is it? Cuz it's what? Hi, Abby. Does it play into Agenda 47's hands? I don't know. Force them like Obama. Obama didn't force them. How did Obama force them? The issue is so small in this shutdown, should be easy to resolve. Yeah. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Shut the government down for 17 days. Okay, again, You can't just say the government was shut down, so it's someone's fault. The only people that say that are Republicans and Trump. I'm not saying this shutdown is one group's fault. Actually, I have said specifically that there is a small fault on the Democrats because the Democrats chose not to do it. So yeah, they've got regardless of whether I think it's tiny, they've got some fault in it. But the main reason is no one negotiated with them. The majority party did not do their job. You work on East Coast hours? Gotcha. Because it's like what? 4 a.m. in Hawaii?
You know, the bottom line here, Mike, is that we know the rules. The rules say it takes 60 votes to get it through the Senate. That presupposes a negotiation. So when you go to your minority party and say, we're not going to talk about anything, just sign this, what do you think is going to happen?
Yep.
And secondly, on this issue, the subsidies issue shouldn't be too hard to solve because, as always, Trump can't keep his mouth shut. He's already said he wants the subsidies.
And
He
again,
said that yesterday before he had to walk it back. He probably walked it back after a panicked phone call from Thune and the speaker saying, "Hey, you're killing our negotiating position here." But Donald Trump can't help himself.
Hot Dog Machine, this is a Good Mythical Morning hat. Yeah, again, I've said this before. If the Republicans negotiated before, like right before, like they came out like last minute and put this all through. Oh, they just look the same. Gotcha. If Republicans, if they had talked about the fact that they had been negotiating and they're like, look, we offered this. I may still be like, those are ridiculous. There's no way they're going to take it. But at least if they had said they had done those kind of things, I'd be like, okay. You know, there's at least more blame there at that point. In this case, the Republicans said, we will not negotiate at all. They chose to do it without talking. The only time they talked to them at all was the day before the shutdown in the president's office. That's the only time. And it wasn't a negotiation because they were basically being told, you do this or we're shutting down the government.
Yeah, you have to agree, especially if you know it's 60 votes. I mean, that's incumbent upon any political party to negotiate with the minority. That's the way it's always been done. And at any rate, I'm a little bit surprised, hence my comment before. In terms of issues for a shutdown, this is pretty small ball. We're only talking about the ACA subsidies. The Democrats could have gone for a lot more, but they didn't. They're keeping it focused. And, you know, in a normal world, this should be about a 15-minute phone conversation to wrap this thing up. But we don't live in a normal world anymore.
Yeah. They aren't going to negotiate. They are. They are.
I think part of, sorry.
If it goes long enough, they will. They're trying. They are making the GOP are trying to make a play. They're trying to make a play. And again, have Democrats done things like this before too? Sure. Do I hate it? 100%. Because anytime these American citizens are getting hurt by a situation of politics, I'm not going to be happy. That does not change the current situation. This idea that because a shutdown happened during Obama's presidency, that means this one is okay, is also ridiculous. We're talking about now. I never said Obama was perfect. I never said that I agreed with the shutdown, regardless of what I actually believe about that shutdown. I never said anything about it. So when you come in and you aren't willing to say, this is wrong, this situation is wrong for this reason, and your only response is, look what happened in 2013, that, yeah.
Look, the Republicans could end this shutdown in 5 minutes, and they could end it with no Democratic votes if they want to.
Yep.
It's very simple.
Get
Get rid of the filibuster. Get rid of the filibuster.
Yep.
If you feel that strongly about it, get rid of the filibuster, ram it through. That's the ability you have as the majority
They just
party.
don't want to do that. That would
Well,
be...
if they ever did that, I would be delighted for the Democrats' chances in the midterms, because then all these price increases go into effect, and this time they wouldn't be able to blame the Democrats for anything. They would own it all 100%, pissing off 27 million people, and a lot more than 27 million people, because there's a spillover effect from ACA subsidies into regular insurance. And they're going to be pissing off the American people with huge price increases coming up January 1st. But they could end it. The Republicans do not need a single Democratic vote. They don't have to negotiate with the Democrats. They don't have to talk with the Democrats. They can simply end the filibuster and pass it on a majority vote. Now, do you have balls, Republicans? Let's see you do it.
Yeah.
What I was going to say was to what Scott had said previously. I think it's easier in the fact that it's just one thing, but I think the one thing that it is makes it not easy at all. They have been actively going after the ACA ever since its inception. They tried actively to stop it from getting taken down. So I think easy is a word that may be...
I think he meant easy as in compared to what.
And I think, again, even if it's just this one thing, the one thing that it is, because for how long now this has been going on, since what, 2013, 2014, they've been actively trying to go against it. I think that's the scary part about it. I mean,
well, let me explain what I meant by easy then, Kia. In every other instance with the Republicans going at the ACA, they went to terminate the ACA. They went for the whole kit and caboodle. Now they're only talking about the increase in the COVID subsidies that happened during the pandemic. They want to go back to the old schedule for the subsidies, not the new schedule for the subsidies, which has lasted beyond the pandemic. So it's pretty small ball in that regard. And if we lived in a normal political environment, it wouldn't be hard to come to a compromise here and move on. But they don't. And as for the Republicans, they're playing with fire. If you recall, in 2018, they tried to get rid of Obamacare altogether. They failed because the famous John McCain thumbs down in the Senate. They failed to do it. And even after failing, with no changes to the ACA at all, the American people were so pissed off that the Democrats won 41 seats in that election. And that was all healthcare, that election. That election was all about the attacks on the ACA. So Republicans have at it. They're like the dog who keeps chasing the bus, and they're going to catch that bus and find out what happens.
Logan, ending the filibuster it changes a 60 vote requirement to a majority requirement, and they've got a majority.
Yeah, it's important to note that the filibuster is not a part of the Constitution or anything else. The filibuster is just an internal Senate rule that can be changed anytime by just a majority vote in the Senate. They can get rid of anything, and I'll give you an example of it. You used to have 60 votes to get a judge appointed. The Republicans got rid of that, and they now get judges appointed by just a majority vote in the Senate. So they can go to majority rule anytime they want.
Love it when people whine about getting muted.
Somebody get upset they got muted.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, poor baby.
Um, but yeah, the reason that the filibuster has stayed in place is because both sides have always understood that the filibuster gives a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of power to the minority party. And neither one, like both sides know that at some point they will be the minority. There will always be a minority party and it will always go back and forth until we change in the current system.
Yeah, don't forget President Biden was under a lot, and at the time, Majority Leader Schumer were under a lot of pressure to get rid of the filibuster for the Voting Rights Act, and they wouldn't do it for the very reason that you said, Mike. They knew that the time would come where they'd be back in the minority, and they didn't want to set that precedent.
Yeah.
I want to reply. There's a comment by Jill in on the tube talking about there are no subsidies at all. I've received no help, so not sure where he's claiming old subsidies. There literally are subsidies. That's what helps make it affordable. Scott, if you would like to go a little bit further into that.
Sure, they're torn approximately. I don't have this year's statistics, but the last time I looked, about 27 million people get their health care now through the ACA. That does not include the Medicaid expansion, which is tens of millions of more people, but that has to do with Medicaid, which is the big $900 billion cut that's coming up. But the vast majority of people on the ACA do get some form of subsidies. And those subsidies run about 2 to 1. No, almost 3 to 1, 2.5 to 1, red states versus blue states. There are far more people in red states that get subsidies than blue states. About 8.5% of everyone who lives in a red state is getting some form of ACA subsidy versus 3.2% in blue states. Source Congressional Budget Office.
And remember that the way these subsidies work, we don't see them. Like anyone who's on the ACA doesn't get something that says, "Oh, here is your subsidy." It is a subsidy that is a lot of them are based on things like income and everything else. And when you get your bill from the insurance company, that subsidizes that is with a subsidy in if you qualify for the subsidy.
Subsidies are also, hi, good morning.
Hi.
Subsidies are also subject to the area that you live in. Like the way that your subsidy qualification amount is measured, I think they take the second lowest silver healthcare plan offered in your state and use that as the benchmark and then provide subsidies to get all prices closer to that number. But those subsidies are not paid to you, Jill. You just see it in a reduction. So you receive essentially better health care for the same price you would be paying for a lower plan.
Yeah.
You get more coverage, you have more access to doctors. That's what the subsidy is. You pay less for better health insurance.
And let's be fair,
because the government pays the health insurance companies.
Let's be straight. Health insurance isn't affordable in general anyways. Like, yes, it being called the Affordable Care Act is somewhat of a it's about as wrong as Big Beautiful Bill. That's regardless. The point is in terms of taking all insurance, it is made more affordable by things like the subsidies. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. None of this is perfect. Heck, when the Affordable Care Act was when Obama had to allow certain states to not even be a part of it in the beginning. Like there were some states that were like, we don't do any of this. Like that was how they got the vote, was to let certain states be exempt from the requirements of the ACA at that time. I don't know what's changed since, but This is the problem that we deal with in all of it is they're making these bills, they're trying to make them the best they can. Senators, congressmen will use whatever they need to get their vote if they think it will get them back into office the next time.
Yeah, and to follow up on what Theory said, she's absolutely correct. Where you see your subsidy when you're on the ACA is in the actual bill that you receive. It's taken off of your bill, and in some cases, it leaves you with a very low premium. And it is indeed all based on what are known as the silver plans.
I also think that the framing of Jill's question is something I take a problem with. It's so inherent to like American culture, which is that because it's not happening to me, it's not happening. Because I'm not receiving subsidies, they don't exist. And it's like when you try to make legislation and policy for a country as diverse and as large as the United States, with as many varied household sizes, household incomes, makeup of households, all that stuff, there are bound to be people who immediately feel the effects of a legislation, and there are bound to be people who are not affected by it at all. It is impossible to govern for every single use case. But overall, you should look at the health of Americans, because our increase in people covered by health insurance from 2013 to 2022 is massive. I think it went from 40 million to 20 million uninsured people. That should be a benefit to you.
Ira, no, they do not have a plan. If they had a plan, they would release what the plan is. This is the same thing that they do. How many times? How many times have the Republicans say that they've had a plan? More times than I can count. And the one thing that has never been brought forth once is an actual healthcare plan. The only thing that they have tried to do since the Affordable Care Act was released was get rid of it completely or in part. That's it. That's it.
They actually did have a plan in 2017 that would have raised costs to Americans and cut the number of people insured. And that was described as mean, mean, mean. Now, who was the person who described it as that? Oh, that's right, then President Donald Trump. He described the plan the Republicans came up with as mean. That's the only time they came up with a plan that was so unworkable, so ridiculous, would have raised premiums, given less coverage, and thrown millions of people off of health care altogether. That was their idea of a plan.
And here's the thing, guys. If we want to stop helping insurance companies, single payer healthcare, universal healthcare is the best way to do it, because that is the one thing that would change, is money would no longer go through insurance companies.
And for people who may not understand the phrase single payer, think of it as Medicare for all. Think of it that way. Everybody's on Medicare, the whole country.
You do receive subsidies you won't be able to afford in jail. Yeah. I mean, that's what we're talking about, Jill, in the end, is that if the subsidies don't, I mean, they're probably still raising prices even with the subsidies, but they're raising it more because the subsidies are going to go away. Yep.
And this is like a classic example of like, there are so many problems. And once you start digging deep into any topic, you start realizing, oh, well, why is healthcare so expensive? And oh, why are insurance companies acting as for-profit businesses? And oh, how can we, lower the cost, blah, 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 all these things. I think we have to tackle one thing at a time. Increasing access to insurance and healthcare, step one. Step two, figuring out how to stop running insurance companies as for-profit businesses, which, as Mike mentioned, or someone mentioned on this chat, is single-payer healthcare.
And along those lines, one of the ancillary benefits of the ACA that wasn't even realized at the time by President Obama or the people who passed it was the Medicaid expansion, which has brought health care to tens of millions of people who otherwise would not have it. And that has been a thing that has literally saved countless rural hospitals, because that's primarily the target market is rural America with the Medicaid expansion. That has saved countless rural hospitals and built up infrastructures of the best paying jobs in those rural counties. And that's what's at risk when the other half of the big, beautiful bill, I mean, is bad. If you think this is bad, wait till you see what happens to Medicaid. If you think this is bad, Medicaid is the big enchilada here. And that is coming up coincidentally 1 month after the midterms is when the Medicaid cuts in. And that's close to $1 trillion that is going away. And good luck rural hospitals, good luck the counties and the people who work at those hospitals, good luck at the vendors who serve those hospitals, and good luck for the property taxes of the people who live in those counties when those hospitals, which are the largest rateable in those counties, close down. This is what's coming.
So there's someone in the chat talking about, ask Canadians how much they're taxed for their health care. To you, I posit, ask Canadians and Americans alike how much money they pay out of pocket. Ask Americans how much money they pay out of pocket for their healthcare costs that Canadians get for free.
Again,
it doesn't matter how much money is being taxed if you're receiving quality care. I pay my taxes and I don't want to, I'm sorry, 1 second. I don't want to pay for our military to be as inflated as it is. I don't get a choice. I just have to pay those taxes and they go up every year.
This is the thing that we all need to remember when it comes to healthcare. We are always paying for other people's healthcare. Always. Literally always. Your health insurance right now, through your health insurance, you are paying for other people's healthcare. It's no different. Really no different. Except in this case, if we had a single payer universal health care, all that money you were paying as a premium would go to a fund like your Social Security does. It would not go to a middleman who gets to decide whether you get your procedures covered, and that middleman is not trying to make money off of it. There are certain things in this country that shouldn't be about making profit. And people's health is one of them. There should be no goal of making profit off of somebody's health.
Well, let's look at it at a dollars and cents thing. Let's leave the morality out of it just for a second and look at it in dollars and cents. The cost to run Medicare is about 1% of premium. About 1% of the operating costs to run Medicare. That's pretty darn low. And yet insurance companies make between 15 and 20% of their premiums or profit. Well, there's a cost savings to the American people, huge cost savings of upwards of 20% if we just went to a single payer system. The entire healthcare costs would drop about 20%. There's a net savings for the American people. A net savings. And that doesn't even get in to how much savings we would have by having a healthier population, which perhaps theory has run some statistics on that. I don't know, but it's got to be an awful lot when you factor that in as well. Those are ancillary downstream savings. So to me, the whole idea, there's a reason that every other industrialized country has national health care. I mean, there's a reason for that. They don't do it because they're being nice. They do it because it makes sense.
Ryan, under what infrastructure do we have? What you're talking about is federalizing the current insurance system that we have that already isn't working for most people. This is why we're saying universal healthcare for all. What you're suggesting is a tax on the American people so that they can use their insurance in any state.
So, Jamie, the way So we already pay for others' healthcare with our premium. So if you have, let's say, Blue Cross Blue Shield, everyone who has Blue Cross Blue Shield pays their premium. Every one of those premiums go into a pot. That pot is used for whoever uses it. If you don't do anything but go to the doctor, you don't use your pot. You don't get it back. You don't do anything with it. What it does do is pay for someone who may use more than their pot. And then next year, maybe you'll go more and they'll go less and the pot will change. Now there's a whole bunch of other things going on with health insurance, which crazy. I've been learning far too much about how health insurance works lately for my own sanity, but there's a whole bunch of thing about investing and everything else. But that is why we already do it. Everyone who's got health insurance, I mean, we're already helping pay for uninsured people. We already do that. Anyone who is uninsured and goes to an emergency room, it costs the hospitals. And then what the hospitals do, because chances are, if you're going to an emergency room for something, you don't have a lot of money and you don't have health care. So they can bill you all they want. They're not going to get it from you. So what they end up doing is when they negotiate new terms with insurance companies, they raise their rates on things. And then the insurance company raises their rates on you. This is why we keep saying it's this cyclical thing. So many people keep acting as though this entire process is something of, we don't want X, Y, we don't want to pay for X, Y, and Z. We already are paying for X, Y, and Z. And A, B, C, D, E, and F. We already do it. The difference, if we had a single payer health system, is not only would we all get better health care, all of us, because we would also be healthier, which would mean we would all go less, because if we didn't have to worry about how we would pay for things, we'd just go when we were sick. We'd just go when we were sick. So not only would we be healthier, which would reduce costs, but we would not be paying a middleman whose goal is to make money off of us on that healthcare. So again, it's still paying into a pot, just like you would if you were a Blue Cross Blue Shield or United Healthcare or Aetna or any of the other ones. Except now it's the entire country.
Yep. I feel uniquely qualified to kind of talk about this. Essentially, kind of think about it. You take most of the premiums you pay your insurance company and instead pay them via taxes to the state or federal government, depending on how America would ever decide to set up their single payer universal healthcare system. In Canada, ours is set up under the Canada Health Act, but it is provincially distributed, provincially and territorially. Sorry if anybody's from the territories. I never mean to forget you. I just, which I personally, as a Canadian, don't love, because it means that provincially, each of us, depending on where we live in the country, get different healthcare and quality of healthcare because it's provincially distributed. But essentially, we still here in Canada have insurance, but our insurance premiums are nowhere near the same cost, and what we use our insurance for is different. It's things like prescriptions, or if you want to go to the chiropractor or the eye doctor, or things that are like the dentist, things that are not if you get sick or if you need medicine because you have thyroid issues or diabetes. All of that stuff is all you just call your doctor and make an appointment when they have time available, or you go to the hospital if you need to, or if you're diagnosed with cancer, you go to where I am, there's a cancer institute right by the U of A. I've never, and it's my whole life, I've never understood why people in America fight against a single payer universal system, because it benefits every person. You do not get lower quality of care because everybody gets access to the system. People use it as they need it. Like, no one goes to the doctor more often than they need to, because why would you waste your time? Who Maybe everybody else on this panel loathes going to hospitals as much as I do. I try to avoid them at all costs. I'd rather go to a Walmart. But it's nice knowing that, you know what, if you get sick, you can go. It's never a concern. Or if you have a concern, something pops up and you're not sure if something's wrong, you can just go. And you know what? Find out earlier if something is wrong, because the earlier you find out if something is wrong with your health, the more likely it's able to be treated. Waiting until it's way too late, it means it's way too late. Like, I've genuinely never understood why this has always been an Achilles heel in America. Like, I've argued with ministers on planes who think that you should only get healthcare if you can afford it, and I never understood how this, and other people who like were obviously not wealthy, but they're like, yeah, we should all just get what we pay for. Well, why do you not think everybody just deserves to have access to care, to a medical professional when and if they become ill?
Uh,
I
Why?
think it's a deeply American way of seeing the world and seeing ourselves within that world, which is, I'm responsible for me. I am responsible for my own success. I'm responsible for my family. I. And it doesn't allow us to think of each other in community. What COVID should have taught us, which I wish it had, was the fact that the health of all of us is the health of all of us. We are only as healthy as our community is. So it should be a benefit to every single American to have people who cannot afford healthcare receiving healthcare. So that when you go out to the store and you run into someone who is less well off than you, you're not worried about catching something that they did not have access to healthcare to even get diagnosed in the first place. Do you understand? I think additionally, one of the comments that's happening over and over is that in all corporations should have insurance for all of their workers and employees. I don't know about you, but I consider insurance under corporations to be a form of indentured servitude. Why is my working for a corporation the only way I have access to affordable healthcare when a healthy workforce overall should be the goal?
Sure.
Look, let's simplify this a bit. Again, Medicare, which is a huge program affecting all senior citizens, is run for about 1% of premium. Insurance companies make about a 20% profit, so you're saving 20% right off Jump Street. But look at the downstream, too. Downstream, you're saving by having everybody insured, therefore a healthier country. Downstream, you're saving money on the huge bargaining power that a nationwide Medicare system would have with the drug companies. You would have significantly lower drug costs. And thirdly is exactly what theory just touched upon. You would take the shackles off the American workforce, who would no longer have to take into consideration their company-paid healthcare program if they decided they wanted to change jobs. How many people, all of us, have worked for an employer that we didn't really want to work for, but we needed the damn health insurance?
Mm-hmm.
That would all go away in a single-payer national Medicare for all type system. You would have 20% savings off the top, a healthier country because everybody would be insured, less infectious diseases. You would have huge bargaining power with the drug companies. You'd bring them to their knees. You'd get significantly lesser drug costs. And finally, you have a workforce that becomes completely mobile. They could work for anybody.
Additionally, we would have a workers' market where we could negotiate salary outside of the benefit of healthcare. No longer can companies hold healthcare in place of actual salary. So now you have a workforce that is looking to be paid more money and is working more efficiently and can leave organizations. This is why corporations are against universal healthcare. Sorry, I had to connect that dot.
James, yeah, it's GOP shutdown. Who controls all three branches of the government, or all three houses, Senate, in terms of what's required for passing any budget, any bill?
I so agree with that though theory, because what kind of job you have should not dictate whether or not you're able, or if you have a job, should not dictate whether or not you're able to get health care. And that's the thing. If healthcare wasn't so freaking expensive and people were actually able to go to the doctor for preventative care, we wouldn't have such high costs with people having to wait until they're so sick that there's no other options.
Exactly.
Exactly. And I think that's why my brain just could never wrap around it. And for the person in the comments who says that we pay such high taxes plus premium insurance and stuff, what are you talking about? Like, our taxes, when we pay our taxes to the federal government and to the provincial government, go to things beyond healthcare. Just so you know, I could list them, but we'll be here till tomorrow.
Well, and this is the part that a lot of people don't understand when they look at the percentages. They see a high percentage, but they don't see what these countries get from it. Again, is it perfect? No country is perfect. None. No system is perfect. They're always, it was not a clean bill, James. We'll talk about that in a second. No country is perfect. No bill is perfect. No system is perfect. There's always things that can be done to make things better. That being said, the whole point of a society is you all pay in so you all can benefit. Dems are not saying it was a clean bill. It's not a clean bill. A clean bill means there were no changes. There were. The big, beautiful bill changed things. The president changed things. If there's no funding for PBS in it, then it's not a clean bill, because what they signed in March, there was funding for PBS, and now there's not. If there's no funding for USAID, then it's not a clean bill, because there was funding for USAID in the bill that was signed in March. It's not a clean bill if things have changed.
Yeah, there's a qualitative difference between what Schumer did the first time, because you didn't have HR1, you didn't have the big beautiful bill. That came after the threat of the first shutdown. So you're not dealing with the same playing field now.
They can keep the subsidies in and still work on a better replacement. They just don't want to do the work. That's the ridiculous thing. The GOP's response is, oh, just do this and we'll fix it. No, keep things and still work on something to fix it. And then convince people, which is exactly what we should all be doing, that this is better for everyone. The problem is everything the one time they've put something out, it wasn't. And every other time they haven't. They're not putting things out. They're just saying this is bad and leaving it at that.
I think part of the part that scares me about this whole situation is you can tell by these comments, not just in here, but in other spaces as well, how much people actually don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And it's really scary, because if it's that easy for somebody to just be able to get up on TV, tell you a bunch of lies or wherever, and you believe it all and you don't do your own research, and then you're sitting out here spewing it, we're in trouble.
Why does PBS need 1.1? It used to be publicly funded. Because the people...
What do you think is publicly funded?
Publicly funded is the government. Is our taxes.
Publicly funded is funded through the American population's taxes, my love.
The only reason they are going to people to get the rest of the funding is because over the years, they have not increased funding to PBS. So they've had to do something else to keep it going. And you know what? The people that benefit the most from PBS are the ones that can't afford to give to PBS. Which is why the government funded it in the first place.
Trust me, it's not the billionaires' kids who are watching or needing to watch PBS. Their parents can afford private tutors if they wanted to. It's the people who don't have access to all of that extra added education and support that need, like, oh my God.
Publicly,
If you were a real patriot, I have wanted to say this for so long, maybe years even. If you are a real patriot, you should give a shit about the overall health, the overall education, the overall competitiveness of your workforce and the future workforce, which means children. The reason that we have children in a society is to maintain it. So you should treat children like the future workers of America. Do you know why America is competitive globally? It's not just because we're assholes to everyone. It's because we have one of the best intelligent workforces. And guess what's been decimated over the last 15 years? We are no longer competitive in the one thing that we had going for us. That should worry you as a patriot.
why are you demonizing Maha? Because the people that run Maha are not even doctors.
Wow. Wow. There's our first bingo of the day.
Yes.
Literally, the man in charge of Maha is not a doctor.
And he's got questionable views on healthcare and doesn't like look at experts for information in the field. He
Because
thinks
a vast majority of the doctors in this country are saying that he's a crackpot who has no idea what he's talking about. Not just a few, almost every doctor.
Also, no one's demonizing everything. We're just discussing the reality of the situation. If you think it's demonizing, that says something about what you think about Maha, not me. I'm not demonizing anything. I'm just talking about truth.
I just want the people that are. Did you see? Oh my gosh, I forgot I was going to talk about this today. We're going on a little tangent. I'm sorry, but I saw this and I wanted to scream. Everyone remember Herschel Walker?
The brilliant Senate candidate.
Yeah. He is now the ambassador to the Bahamas. Trump's personal chief, Sergio Gore, is the ambassador to India. The former Border Patrol Union president is now the ambassador to Chile. And remember that Arab American mayor in Dearborn Heights in Michigan, the one who was in the news a ton right before? He is now the ambassador to Tunisia.
Yes, it is true that all presidents tend to use ambassadorships, especially to small countries, as a political thank you. However, Mr. Trump has brought that to a new art form. Not only is he putting in his friends, he's putting in who could arguably be the most incompetent people on earth to represent the United States. Now, that is new.
Yes. And it's not that they bring in people that they like. Literally, that's what all presidents do. I have no issue with that, per se. It's that they're putting in people that literally have no...
I do.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, I have no issue with that in the sense of people running things are going to put in people that they like and trust. This has nothing to do with like and trust. This is different, as Scott was saying. This is not putting people that are competent.
It's mafia.
Yeah.
It's mafia mentality. The only requirement you need is loyalty to the president. I'm going to hop down in 1 second, Tiffany, and then you can have at it. But so it's not that he's putting people who are incompetent. It's not just that he's putting people that are incompetent into these positions. It's in context of everything else that is ongoing. We have a president who is alienating all of the allies that we have built over time. He is making us less competitive across the board. He is enacting tariffs against countries who were previously unbothered by us, who are now suddenly very bothered by us. And then he puts diplomats into positions of power who have negotiating power, political influence in other countries, who are completely incompetent into those positions. So it is a decimation of our global power on a scale that we've never seen as Americans. And we should be deeply concerned about that.
Exactly. And as Hyper Dad in the comments, great comment, Hyper Dad, as he just pointed out, if Marco Rubio is the smartest person in your cabinet, you've got a problem. And Marco Rubio is the shining star of this pledge class, and he's barely competent. And I say that stretchingly and sarcastically.
I just want to say this real quick. For everyone that's in TikTok, if you like what we do here, just know I'm live here and on the tube at the same time. We're trying to get to the point of, we don't know what's going to happen over here, so we're trying to grow over there. If you want to be able to not have to worry about your comments getting filtered by the app itself, go over there, hang out. Also, watch the podcasts that are released. You know, we just released one yesterday. We're releasing another one tomorrow. They're both going to be, they're both like, guys, I am literally interviewing like 3 to 4 people a week to make this possible, to put out this much content. We're talking to so many different kinds of people. There are some really cool people on the docket. I'm going to be interviewing another Gen Z candidate who's running for Congress in Iowa. We're going to be interviewing some business people, some economy people. The person that's coming out tomorrow is a musician. We talk music. Yeah. So there's a lot of really cool things coming out. As I said before, it's Essay Awareness Month. Next week, we're going to be interviewing a friend of mine who went through a whole ordeal. And she has graciously not only been willing to talk about it, but talk about how she worked through everything she went through. And at least in her situation, she just wants, is one of those, if her situation can help anyone else, she wants to. So there's a lot of things that are going on, and I would really appreciate, not only do I think you will get something from it, but I would also appreciate the support over there. So for Iowa, yes, someone can talk. I'm going to look up the name.
Okay, because I've been holding this comment, like there's 80 something comments have come after. And every time it was the things work, it's not working again. So every time I get ready to start talking, someone else did. But Elaine, why are people so lazy nowadays? We've had to work hard our whole lives. Do you not understand how that's... I detest when people talk about how lazy people are nowadays. Because I think for me, one of the things that bothers me the most is I think that younger people are not enslaved to these fucking corporations where they feel like they have to work their entire life away to be anything. Having a job and you're working yourself to the bone, working yourself to the point where you're not mentally or physically well is not that's not something cool. So please stop talking about people being lazy just because they're not enslaved and they don't want to work 24/7. They don't want to work 100 years. I think that's part of the issue. That's why it's gotten to be that way, because for so long, everybody's like, well, we've got to work. We've got to work. We've got to work. We've got to make these companies rich. We got to make these companies rich. We got to keep doing it. And you work and work and work until you retire at however many years old, and you done worked your whole damn life away. Stop talking about people being lazy if you don't know exactly what you're talking about.
I have been working since I was 13, so almost 34 years now. I have worked 2 full-time jobs for far too much of it. No one should have to do that to survive. Literally no one. If you want anything, you have to do the work. Disagree. There are certain things that everyone should be able to get if they work. People want to work. People want to have a place to live and have food, but they also want to do things other than working. We should not. We should. A meeting. I
Hey,
I know. I know. Listen, to the person calling young people or this generation or any generation beneath them lazy, we do not receive the same benefits or loyalty that you received as an employee. There used to be a reciprocal relationship between firms and people, and it wasn't easy. It was hard fought. The reason that we have weekends is because people protested. We do not have any of those protections. We also do not have any of those benefits. Many of us are in our mid 30s, early 30s, thinking we may never get to see retirement. Not just because the federal government is interested in raising the age, but because we don't have the same wealth acquisition channels that you did when you were an employee. So you want to tell me that I'm supposed to work just as hard as you did for significantly less protection because companies are laying off 7% of the workforce every other fucking day. I'm supposed to work harder than you did, be more skilled, be more educated for less money, less spending money, and for less benefits and for less protections. Why? Why should I do that? Is that just because the way things are? Is it just because old people think that young people are lazy?
Elaine, and I say we because I am Gen X, we absolutely did get things when we were younger. Yeah, we had to work a lot, but the price of living was actually more affordable. So when we were working extra jobs when we were younger, we could afford to pay our bills and put money away so we could do things like gain wealth. That is not possible anymore.
Have any of the grandmas in the chat or any of the 60, 70-year-olds in the chat taken a look at how expensive healthcare is? I want you to go and find your nearest, most acceptable nursery or pre-K in your area, and then do the math for how much money each family is spending per child at those places. And then I want you to come back here and say that it wasn't different when you had kids.
And to follow up on what Kia said, and Vonda had a very good comment in chat, 60% of Americans work paycheck to paycheck. And they're not working paycheck to paycheck because they're lazy. They're not lazy. And as for Gen Z being lazy, I don't think I've ever seen anybody work harder than Gen Z. Those kids work their ass off.
and as a millennial,
Complaining at you.
as a millennial on this panels, I'm going to tell you that there is a difference, even like a large significant difference even between what Gen X had access to and as somebody as an elder millennial had access to. Like I think back to when I rented my first apartment, when I was doing my first jobs, I didn't have access to wealth building opportunities that people even 3 years older than me had. Because you know what? The bar had changed that much from 97 to 2000 even. By the time I graduated, most of the companies in Canada no longer had defined benefit plan retirement plans, which guess what? Most of you boomers out there had defined benefit plans. Defined benefit plans are those plans that are kind of like you get paid, you work for 35 years and you get paid like, every month once you retire. You know what? Those didn't exist for millennials. By the time we graduated high school, almost every single company, even the governments, started getting rid of them because those plans super expensive to run. I know because I had to, when I was doing my accounting designation, I had to sit there and calculate how a defined benefit plan needed to be funded because those plans have to be funded properly. I had to do actuary accounting. It is so frustrating because I get really mad for the generation below me because I know how much the ladder got pulled up behind, like up from me, and how much it kept getting pulled up past me. And I can't even imagine for them what it feels like. Like, I was privileged enough and lucky enough that I got into the housing market, which I know there are people 5 years younger than me who never had access to even that opportunity. The fact that you can sit there, and I'm sorry, this is my soapbox, and I will stand on this box but for as long as it takes. The fact that you can sit here and think that all of these kids and all of us on this panel who have worked multiple jobs and have been working since we were children and legally allowed to work are sitting here being lazy, go blow. Like, get over yourself. I'm sorry. We have worked our butts off at middle age at this point. My parents, both of them, had way different lives. And my mom had to restart over as a single parent, going to school and becoming a teacher. And she's still able to retire with a proper pension plus money she put away. Do you know how hard it is to put away money now to save? If you don't happen to be in a company that gives you RSP matching or some sort of pension plan, good luck. Like, who has extra $10 to put away like for retirement? And even then, all of us grew up thinking if you had $1 million saved for retirement, that was going to be enough to survive on. Well, guess what? The bar has changed. You need now $3 to $4 million in your retirement plan to actually be able to afford to live a modest life. So if you try one more time to tell the younger generations that we are lazy, Lord help you when you finally get into an old age home. I hope you have the audacity to say that to the person working in a room with you who's taking care of you. I hope you have the audacity to tell your children when they drop you off there and never come back. Like, hello, excuse me. We have all on this panel and all of us in younger generations worked hard. We went to universities. We're some of the most educated generation that has ever existed. And we have way less than we ever could possibly achieve for what your generation did. And we're never going to get it. It's never going to happen because you guys have all voted in these billionaires, and that includes Canada, who are more than happy to steal it all from us. Whatever little bits we can get, they take. It almost feels like that scene in Robin Hood where he's going around with a little cup and he's got the 2 coins in it and he's going around as the blind man getting alms for the poor, and the sheriff goes
Vonda, I think they were talking to the
Elaine.
person we are talking to, not to Tiffany.
Elaine, like, nobody is saying that you had it easier. We're just saying that the older generations do not have an appropriate frame of reference to tell us anything about what we're doing right now. You do not get the platform or the ability to call us lazy when you don't know what we're dealing with. That is it. No one is saying that you had it easier. No one is saying that you didn't work hard. What we're saying is we have less protections. We are more educated. We are more debt-ridden. Our wages have been stagnant for much longer. The cost of living has gone up. The cost of childcare has gone up, etc., on and on and on. You don't have a frame of reference to look down on younger generations and call them anything because you don't know how much it costs us to even stay alive. Period.
Thank you. And to what she just said, it must be nice to have a university education. Well, guess what? You know what? You couldn't get a job without a university education.
I have a master's degree in political economy, and I am blessed that my master's degree was paid for. I had to pay so much money as a person of color who came from nothing to go to university in the first place for my undergrad. I'm still paying those loans off. That's not a luxury. That is because the market demanded it of me. When I went to graduate high school, I was told that America only wanted an educated workforce, and I had to go to school. I did not have the option. I did not have the option as presented by this country.
Same here in Canada, so it was no different. Guess what? You know what? It must be nice. I paid for that degree all by myself. My parents didn't give me any money towards it. I paid all the money for it myself. I paid for all my housing by myself. I paid for all my food by myself the whole time I did it. And you know what? I did it because guess what? Especially for women, we aren't allowed to not have education in order to go apply for jobs. I hate to say it. I would love to say we were in an equitable job market where women got the same opportunities as men, but guess what? That's not the case, and it definitely wasn't a case in the early 2000s when I was finally going out into the workforce. I hate to say it.
Hey, man.
I had no choice. You had to get a degree or no one was going to look at you as a woman, period, for any job that paid reasonably.
Hey, man, for women, the military was actually not a feasible option. There were no SA protections for women in the military in the 90s, in the early 2000s. Women had to fight tooth and nail to not get sexually assaulted in the military. So while it may have been an option for men, it wasn't a viable option for most women. And I will also argue, Elaine, the way that you talk about younger generations is the way those younger generations are going to turn around and treat you. You come on here and say that they're entitled and lazy, and we're going to tell you that you're an old person who has lost the will to live. I don't know. You don't get to talk to people this way without an understanding of what it is that they're going through. Because I try to understand what it's like to be on a fixed income. I try, when I talk about healthcare costs, to think about people who are on fixed income and who have increasing deductibles, increasing prices of medication, etc. But you don't think about me that way. You don't think about the problems with the youth right now. You just think we're lazy. It's the same boomers who bought houses for $70,000 who are turning around and selling it to young couples at $559,000 and not thinking about what that means for a young family who is just starting. Because you're getting your profit, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you bought that same house for $70K.
And just to piggyback on what you said, Theory, speaking directly to the military and how unsafe it is for women, I went and got an AB after my oldest two kids were born, but before my youngest was born. And when I was there at the clinic, one of the young women that were in the back with us, because after we were sitting in the room, we're sitting waiting to go back to either do it whatever way they were doing it. One of the young women was a soldier. She had been raped by several other soldiers overseas, and she got pregnant. And she got to come home to have the baby to get it taken care of. And I don't think people understand like what happens to women that are in the service and they're from these states that they can't go home to and get their health care that they need taken care of. Because not only did this young lady have to get an abortion she wasn't asking for, she also has to deal with the trauma of what being raped by multiple people at the same fucking time did to her. So it's not, there's so many levels on so many different ways where it is different. It's so different. Bye, Theory again.
Bye.
Okay, I'd like to address a couple of issues, especially since I'm 68 and a boomer. Number one, most boomers do not have defined pension plans. That was more the greatest generation that sort of invented, and then that sort of died out with them. But that's neither here nor there. Boomers had a tremendous advantage, especially in terms of housing. I know what I paid for my first house, even in the most expensive state for housing in the country, and I think I paid $140,000 for it. And I don't even know what it's worth now. And the younger generations cannot possibly, the cost of housing especially, and the cost of education has gone up way in excess of inflation and way more than the rise in salaries. So there is no comparison. I am well aware of the fact that the boomers especially got a pretty good deal in starting out in life. That doesn't mean they didn't work hard for it. I worked damn hard. I also started working when I was 13 years old. So I know what that's like. But in the same token, my life expenses were significantly less, even accounting for salary inflation, than what the young people today have to put up with. And to call them lazy or somehow not working is patently ridiculous and contrary to the facts.
Okay, so I cannot guarantee anything here, but Eleanor said that she was talking about our politicians and them being lazy. So again, I'm not going to sit here and say one way or another on anything here. We are on the internet. Half of what we're doing is in chat. This is for people in chat. Okay, I'm going to say this for people in chat. If you are ever in a chat, this goes for me, this goes for the people in this panel. If you are ever in a chat that is having hard discussions like what we are doing constantly here, that is probably dealing with trolls and everything else in this current environment. You need to be more specific when you talk. We have had multiple people that are friends of this community that said something about something else, but because of the conversation that was going on, it was interpreted a different way by the mods, by the people on the panel, and it got them blocked, it got them muted, it got a lot of things happen. We up here, when we are up here, we are dealing with a lot. We are dealing with a lot. We're dealing with a lot of different people. We're dealing with the fact that sometimes we're explaining the same thing that seems obvious about 100 times. And when we see things, it can be misinterpreted. And again, I'm not going to specifically talk about this specific situation. It doesn't matter anymore. I think we're done with that conversation at this point.
I was just going to say to Scott's comment, bearing in mind when I said boomers, it might also be because I'm in Canada and not in America, and that we had maybe defined benefit pensions longer than America had. So a lot of people that I know, most of them who would be considered part of the boomer generation, do have defined benefit plans. Even actually a lot of elder Gen X had access to that. Younger Gen X, questionable. If they happen to make it in before the year 2000, perhaps they did luck out and get into it.
The point being for everyone is, when you are commenting, please make sure that if you are talking about a specific situation, say a little bit more if you need to, so we understand who you're talking about, because there are people that come in and they just make a generalized statement, and it may have to do with what you came in and saw up here, and we're not talking about that at that moment, and we will misinterpret. Be intentional with your words. Yes. So that's just a general PSA to everyone in any live, is please be understanding of what you're saying, and make sure that we don't misunderstand.
What are we supposed to tell the truth about?
He's talking about my statement about the not paying furloughed employees.
Well, Trump did suggest that, did he not? That's what I had seen. Okay.
He threatened to not pay certain ones. That's still threatening to not pay furloughed employees.
Yeah.
Which I believe goes against the law, the 2019 law
His
that he
own law
signed.
Yep.
His law that he signed. It really is amazing how the lack of accountability for his statements to which he is held by the mainstream media. It really is amazing. It shouldn't be amazing by this point, but I still find myself amazed that isn't the very first thing that the media should point out, is that this is his law that he signed, that he says he's not going to pay attention to now.
They didn't hold him to the fact that every time they complained about taxes, that we were under his tax law either. So,
well, and think he signed the free trade agreement with Canada and Mexico, and then promptly, as soon as he got in, said it was the most terrible, worst deal ever made for Americans, and decided to not listen to the deal that he signed. So this is just on point for him. It's always on point for him. He does terrible things, and then he says how terrible they are, but insinuates somebody else did the terrible thing. It's like, it's his MO.
why you wear a hat? Because I like wearing hats. Why you put whatever that is on your picture? Because you wanted to. Oh, are you trying to say that I'm bald? Ha! Okay. I mean, I'm not, but okay. all that money going to different countries for weird things. That is your opinion.
For the record, the United States spends less per GDP on foreign aid than any industrialized country.
Been watching the morning show on
It's okay.
Apple.
You're welcome. I'm not sure which branch she was in, but just imagine it's 7 ladies sitting waiting to get an abortion. Some were getting it done via a pill, some were actually getting the procedure done. And you're just sitting there sharing your stories. One was a terrified 16-year-old girl who her mom didn't ever teach her that the very first time you have schmecks that you can get pregnant. She ended up pregnant. Her mom made her get an abortion. You had the soldier. I'm not sure which branch she was from. Um, we didn't ever get into that. It was just trying to be more of a support for people. Not on top of the fact that when we walked into the building, we had people outside holding signs screaming that we're schmurderers and that we're all going to hell. We should keep our legs closed, yada, yada, yada.
My heart breaks every time I hear it. And just the protesters and the signs alone, my heart breaks. Like, that behavior alone breaks my heart. Because I have been fortunate enough in my life that I've never had to make that decision for myself. I've just been very fortunate and lucky. Access to birth control has been always priority in my life and been available to me. I know what a privileged position that is, and I'm so proud that Canada chooses to make sure that access is available to everyone in our country who wants it. But I just I can't imagine being in that room, and I can't imagine that poor woman. Like, just my heart just sinks. And the fact that she probably had to have the procedure, she got maybe a day off or two and had to go back to be in the same area as probably all of those people who did that to her. And I bet you none of those people were held accountable. And it's just, it makes me so angry and furious, because I think I only know one woman who doesn't have her own story of something happening to her. One. In my whole entire life. And it makes me so furious, because I don't know what it's going to take in the world, and this is not an exclusive problem to any part of the world, before we stop trying to hold women accountable for terrible human beings' behavior towards them. And I don't even want to call them men, because they're not. They're terrible human beings, and I don't even like calling them human beings. Terrible things.
And Peggy, it's okay, because I was because I noticed, for me at least, I don't know if anybody else is listening on the tube. You keep, because I have I have my phone and then I have my iPad right next to me and my little keyboard, and when I glance over, you do keep freezing for me. Like right now, your eyes were closed. The tube.
Yeah, I just got a warning on something. I'll have to check it out.
On here?
On the tube, the stream health, I got a message. So I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, because like right now, you're looking up with your mouth open. Okay, so it's freezing. Okay. But haven't had any audio disruption. So just picture.
Yep, I'll look into it.
But I agree. I mean, I'm a mom. I have my youngest will be 19 on the 16th of this month, so in 8 more days. My oldest two are 24 and 25. And to know like how tough it's going to be for them in this world is such a scary thing. And I mean, I think part of the issue is kind of going back for so long, this whole we have to be by ourselves, we have to be independent, we have to everybody's got to have their own house because, there's 300 something million people here. Let's just have as many houses as we have people. There's so many things that are different, and I've had to explain that to my dad. Like I was listening, I'm almost finished with the episode that came out earlier, the one where you interviewed the military wife.
hmm
And I was listening to her talk about some things. And, it is different. It is true what she was, one of the things, my daddy, my adopted dad, is one of 6 kids. The oldest 5 children all went into the service because there was nothing for them really in the area where they were, especially all being black and darker complexion. They didn't have money for college. They didn't have money for trade school. They didn't have money for that. So all of them, 5 of them went into the service just to be able to get money to go to school, to be able to have a job straight out. It's this world is so different. And I mean, Mike is older than me. He's the older brother for a reason. But even at 45, life has changed. The world is so different, even from when we were kids to what it is now. And I appreciate the people who are the Jones generation and the Boomer generations when they're able to say, hey, the younger people definitely have it harder than we did growing up. And I appreciate when they come forward and they say that.
Kia, a few weeks ago, I went out with my nephew and his new wife. They both make a nice living in the city, New York City, and they wanted to purchase a home either in New Jersey or Long Island. Makes sense. So I went house shopping with them. They wanted my advice. I was stunned. I was literally stunned. The cheapest house we could find was $600,000, and it was not a very nice home in a pretty crappy neighborhood. It was literally a cracker box, frankly. And I was just stunned. And I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what they're going to do. And these tariffs aren't going to help things because they make the cost of building and repairing a home so much more expensive when we need to lower the cost of home building. It's counterproductive, folks. I don't know why more people don't see this. These tariffs are counterproductive, and it's also counterproductive to have an entire generation literally depressed, knowing that the quote American dream of home ownership is quickly sliding away from their grasp. That's dangerous. That's not good for our democracy. Looking at it writ large, it's not good for our democracy. It's an issue that we're going to have to face.
So WREL did the 7 o'clock piece, like the thing they went in depth in yesterday. Well, one of the two stories they went in depth with is the tariffs and how they're affecting the soybean crops. So soybean in North Carolina, I don't know if it's for the whole country, but I know soybean farming, they're getting ready to pull their crops this week. The end of this week is when they start harvesting. And they're talking about, so they were interviewing this lady. She's had this soybean farm in her family for like 4 or 5 generations. And for those who didn't know, like it's like our number 5, it's like a 20% of the North Carolina money that comes in, multiple billions of dollars comes from the soybeans. And they're talking about how this whole thing with tariff and this trade war with China, the farmer, she was saying, she was like, it costs us more to grow it than it is going to be that we're going to be able to sell it for. And she's like, and if China doesn't buy this, what are we going to do with all of this? North Carolina lost $9.4 billion just in North Carolina, the farmers. $9.5 billion the last time this shit happens with the soybeans. There's so many things, there's so many ripple effects, and I don't think people understand how much it all ties together, because if those people lose their home. Or if those people aren't able to harvest their soybeans, they're not going to be able to pay their light bills and go to the grocery stores and do all the things to help the economy keep growing and being good. And I almost, she didn't ever say, and they didn't ask her, but I was curious, how did you vote? Because I'm so curious, like, did she vote for him or did she not? Because did she not believe us? Did she not believe what happened the first time with the farmers and what he did? And now she's expecting a bailout. She's like, we need bailouts. We're just fucking ourselves in all these ways that are not pleasant, that are really going to do so much long-term detrimental harm and damage. It is crazy.
Yeah, China has gone from being our largest export partner for soybeans to buying 0%, as Vonda just pointed out, and she is correct, 0% of America's soybean crop. They have been more than happy to buy their soybeans from Brazil. So what did we gain by this? Obviously nothing. Nothing.
They're already talking about a bailout for.
Yeah.
So we spent.
Wreck the global trade market. So you take some of that tariff money and use it for bailouts to the people that you're hurting by the tariffs to begin with. I've got a better idea. Stop the tariffs. That's a better idea. Go to the root cause of this problem, and you don't have to have bailouts. But that'd be too easy.
Right. That's what she was saying. She was like, China didn't buy, and it's like, okay. So seeing that, I think for me, seeing her do the interview on TV, I'm like, okay, so at least somebody's aware. But again, that makes me think, like, how did you vote? Did you not pay attention more so before? Yeah.
Well, the stats are about 80-20 Trump. So I don't know how that individual voted, but those are the stats. And Politico, you make a very good point in chat. Bailouts, whatever their utility, and I think that I don't like the idea of bailouts, but that's neither here nor there. Bailouts, as Politico points out, are only a temporary fix. They're temporary. They're putting a Band-Aid on the problem. Well said, Politico. You're exactly correct.
I would love the tariffs to just like not be a thing. We would be able to stop having ridiculous conversations in the White House between Mark Carney and
Well,
Trump.
the case will be before the Supreme Court in November.
Those lost markets are coming back. I mean, there's no guarantee they won't come back, but they won't come back with the same ease that they existed in the first place. That's for sure.
That's what she said. She directly, the farmer they were interviewing, she was a white tea lady. She was talking about, these countries can make better deals with other countries, and they don't have to deal with the back and forth that we go through here, and how it makes it hard for other countries to want to do business with us.
That's exactly right, Kia. And you start this tariff war, which Trump has done, and then you have bailouts. That's like your neighbor lighting your house on fire and then grabbing a garden hose to try and put it out. It just doesn't make any sense.
And RSR, I will say it again. I know you can't respond anymore, but tariffs are a tax on the American people. We are not the only people that we are hurting in the long run for these tariffs are Americans, the people that were importing the stuff in the first place. If you don't put something in place to make it so businesses and people can afford to change how they do things before you put in a tariff like he did, all you're going to do is cause Americans to suffer. Yes. Is China suffering too? Of course they are. Of course they are. But in the grand scheme of things, small businesses in America are suffering. Small businesses in America are shutting down. How is that helping the economy? How is that helping anything? Because they're not importing anything anymore, which means no tariff money is coming in. They're not selling anything anymore, so they're not paying any taxes. All that's happening is people are losing income and jobs. That's the result of this. It has nothing to do with other countries. It has everything to do with our country. I don't know how many times we can say it.
Apparently, we haven't said it enough. Tariffs are a tax on the people of the country that is importing the stuff. So when America imports steel from Canada and there's a tariff on it, the American people pay the tariff to, well, actually the company pays the tariff to the American government and they pass along the cost to the consumer.
It doesn't matter whether they pass it along. It's
Yep.
still a tax.
Yep.
Whether
it's a tax.
it either gets pushed down to the consumer, depending on what the product is, or the business loses income. Either way, income is being lost due to taxes. And the people that suffer the most from these, because especially places like China, the things they provide are things that are more possible for people in the bottom 50% of this country to afford. People that have tons and tons of wealth and extra money, yeah, they'll have to pay more, but it's not going to hurt them. It's going to hurt the people at the bottom that can't afford a shirt made in the United States completely, but can afford a shirt, or at least it's more possible for someone to afford a shirt that is made in a different country.
Yeah, quite right, Mike. It is true that large businesses have been swallowing some of the tariffs and not yet passing them on to the consumer. But that too is temporary. The longer the tariffs exist, businesses will have to, even large businesses, pass on that tariff cost to the consumer. That's going to happen. In fact, is already starting to happen, which is exactly why you see inflation creeping up. What's the core inflation rate, Mike? It's now 3.1, expected to hit 4 by the end of next year. And Biden finished at 2.3. So the costs are already beginning to be felt by people who are purchasing things. My God, if you're a beer drinker, have you noticed that the cost of your beer has gone up? It's not because of hops. It's because of aluminum and steel, which it is brewed in the steel and it is packaged in aluminum cans. And that's why the price of beer has gone up. And it goes down the line with everything.
Why keep debating how bad it is? Look at the big picture. He's compromised by what does that reality do for this conversation? I'm not even saying you're wrong. There's obviously a lot to that, but okay. What is debating that do for anything?
I want to say the other point that I agreed with in the episode that I was listening to is about the whole, almost like the fact of how often, and not always, it's going to be mostly lower class people, sometimes people who may not be able to get, trying to say this in a way not to be offensive, not the, like people who do really good in school that are able to get scholarships to pay for everything, people who are not the most intelligent, let's put it that way, and how the military is exactly that fuel that they need. And when you don't realize how much this country has been dumbing us down for all these decades, like I said, this this plan of what they're doing, P2025, it might say P2025, but it's a decades long thing that's been happening. And the fact that they don't want us smarter it should show a lot. And then you get these people who get into the military, and it's not so much like what she was saying. There are some people who do it. Oh, my family was in there. There's a long line of family members that have been serving in there, and that whole patriotism stuff. A lot of people, it's more of like a need. It's like I can't afford to go to school without the military, without the money that they're going to give me.
July, what do you think the end game should be? What you obviously have an idea of what we should be doing here. What do you think the end game should be? if what I'm doing is not in what you see as correct, I'm honest. Nowhere am I saying that I'm doing everything perfect on this live.
Oh, and Comey pleaded not guilty.
Shocker, because he's not.
Exactly, but that popped up like after you
the
came on.
the most ridiculous thing about what the Republican senators, especially people like Lindsey Graham, were whining about is they were going for our they took my phone to look at my text. It's like, yeah, because they were doing an investigation and they thought that you were part of it. That's exactly what investigators should be doing.
By the way, I have a little prediction here. It wouldn't shock me in the least, Kia, if this case never goes to trial, if the judge throws it out. There is 0.0 evidence against Mr. Comey.
Yeah, his whining was his whining was hilarious and horrible at the same time. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It could be just my internet today. I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of it's just, yeah, I'm losing bitrate a lot. So I don't know what's going on over there.
Yeah, because when I have you in both places, like I have my iPad turned all the way down, so I can't hear you. I just see. He was so emotional. All of them. Yesterday was just in the constant the constant looking down at the notes, like the prepared answers. Like, because when you got off, after we got off yesterday, I listened to RTP for a little bit while I was doing some stuff, and he was playing it too. But what he wasn't watching it live; he was streaming it, and then he'd press pause and talk about different things they were saying, and you talk and you think about it, and it's like if they took as much time to actually come up with the information and the answers to the questions that the people of the United States actually want to hear, instead of you taking down the time to figure out a response and to try to dig up dirt and all this, I can't answer, I'm not going to answer, I don't know, all this bullshit, like the government would run so much better. So much better. Yeah, emotional is a great word for them. There's a creator on here, one of her followers made her like her own like entrance song type thing for when her live starts every day. And at the very end it says, why are they always, or why do you have to be, it says MAGA men, why do you have to be so emotional? I love it. That's how the song goes off, and it pisses them off. Then the tube sound was going on and off. Okay.
Yeah,
I see him working. I see your mind back there going.
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
getting like no data like warnings. So I don't know if it's my connection to YouTube or not, but It's
As much
fine.
as
We're
they
near
like
the
to,
end.
as much as they like to scream, but what about Biden? What about Obama? If Obama or Biden would have done any of the things that they're doing on the scale even close, half of the scale, they'd be calling for their impeachment. They want them in jail. They want them under the jail. They'd want them to be deported.
Sharon, it is written into law. Unfortunately, if there's one thing we've learned is that this administration does not care about things like law.
Sharon, it's written into the law that Donald Trump passed himself. 2019, he was president then. It's Trump's law that he signed. Pretty funny, isn't it?
But it's always his laws that he has problems with.
Or his trade agreements.
I think he figures that. I think he almost figures that if it's his, if he did it, then he can make the rules up as he goes. He doesn't have to play. It's rules for everybody else, but not for me because it's mine. I made it, so I don't have to pay attention to that. I just want you to.
Yep, that's about it. The concepts of constitutional law have not gotten through to Mr. Trump. He does not understand them, nor does he care to understand them.
Did you see about I don't like saying his name because God, he's creepy. Miller's glitch
Oh
on
yeah,
TV?
when he basically gave his plan away, his argument away early. Yep.
Talking about the 10th what was it, the code 10 or what is it,
Title 10.
title 10, and then is like he almost tried to act like it was like a technical thing. Well, sir, the
Yeah,
screen
plenary
isn't frozen if
authority. Yep.
you the screen isn't frozen if your eyes are still blinking. That means it's still working. Yes, and the thing is like, when somebody was talking about, and Scott, maybe you could go into this further, that by if they do this whole Title 10, this plenary authority or whatever, and they do, I don't think what people realize is that, what do they call it, like the military takeover? What do they call that term?
Insurrection Act? No. Martial law?
Martial
Martial
law.
law, is that
That,
the
yeah,
phrase you're
with
looking
martial
for?
law. That if
Yeah.
they start doing martial law, do you guys understand that all of our rights are frozen in time? They all go away. We have no more rights after that point. I think people need to realize how important and serious that is.
Oh, that's about as serious as it gets, Kia. You don't get too much more serious than martial law. It's pretty hard to imagine anything more serious than martial law.
Yep, that's pretty much.
That's the ball game. That's because when you go to martial law, you're saying that we are no longer a constitutional republic. That's what you're saying.
Well, and I've always personally believed, and this is my own personal belief, I have no evidence to support this, so it's just my thoughts. I've always believed that has always been the end game for this administration.
I'm not willing to go there yet, but are the warning signs there? You bet they are.
Yes.
Tiffany, you bet they're the red lights are blinking, folks.
The alarms are going off.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm
It's time to
sorry.
get on that boat.
It's doing that damn thing again. Kiva, I would say the only thing is that, Di, one day when Di was doing a live, people don't understand. She made a great point. People have to understand that military law, like a military martial law, is going to be different in the United States. It doesn't mean tanks and troops and like soldiers everywhere necessarily. It's basically like an overtaking of the government trying to use the laws to do it. So it's not going to be the same. You're right. Our country is too big for them to put military everywhere and do all of those things. However, the issue is that if he does that, then all of the laws what you have to take into effect, I understand, like some of these states, if you live in Cali or if you live in New York, you live in those heavy blue states, it may not be as bad, but those people that live in the red states are going to be in trouble. And just like I said the other day when someone was talking about separating, those of us that live in red states didn't all vote for him, and we didn't all vote for this. So when people say we need to separate the blue and the red states, you're basically, I just hope you know when you're saying that, you're saying fuck all the people who live in those areas that can't afford to live in the blue areas and that they're getting screwed over at the long term. So please make sure if you call yourself being a part of a community or anything that you're not talking about separating and kicking people out, because that makes you no better than them.
I mean, there are literally millions of people in places like Texas that did not vote for any of this. So we need to remember that.
Millions of people in New York who did. So
Yep.
you're right. Yeah.
And
And my state.
When I
Harris,
live in
Harris only
Alberta.
took my state by 6 points.
Yeah. Well, and I live in Alberta. As somebody who lives in Alberta, we often, because our premier is so terrible, like there is no, just the worst premier that this province has ever had, and that says something considering how terrible the leadership has been in this province. And a lot of Canada treats us the same way. Well, who cares what Canada or Alberta thinks? Who cares? There are so many of us in so many towns and so many cities across this province, and it's why who didn't vote for this. Like, and you can't just throw everyone in one place under the bus because the majority of people voted for it. There's still a huge minority that did not. They want nothing to do with what's going on. It's sorry, my dog had to come in. It's you have to start treating people as if they are all important, and that includes the people who are being heinous, horrible MAGA people, because as much as I want to pretend I don't care, I do. A lot of them are indoctrinated people who are easily manipulated.
Well, one of the
It doesn't excuse their behavior at all. Not excusing behavior. Their behavior is terrible.
One of the things we would see in such a scenario would not necessarily, as Kia said, tanks in the streets or things like that. The nation is simply too large and the military too small to actually effectuate that. You would see it in choke points in the major cities, and you would see more than anything a takeover of the methods of communication. The television networks, the entertainment business, social media, the way that people are informed and get their information. If you control the flow of information, you control the country, you control the thought processes. And that is what I think is worrisome, because we are seeing this already with the mergers that we are seeing in the major television networks, the major entertainment companies, namely Warner, Discovery, Paramount, Skydance, and social media with TikTok, and I predict the next domino to fall will be YouTube. And we are seeing a consolidation, quite frankly, by right-wing forces of the nexus between news, entertainment, television, streaming, and social media. And as Marshall McLuhan said many years ago, the medium is the message, and if you control the medium, you control the message. That to me is a more scary thing than anything else that we've been talking about, and we are not seeing that discussed the way it should be discussed anywhere. And that is a very scary thing. And it's happening now as we speak. It's largely completed already.
Scott, just a question. Who do you think is going to be the minister of propaganda?
Well, Dr. Goebbels isn't with us anymore, so we're going to have a new one. Maybe Stephen Miller. I don't know.
Just a thought as it came into my head as you were talking, but it's true. I think the most important thing is for Americans is going to be building community with people outside of your country, because the only way you guys are going to be able to hopefully at some way access accurate information is to have people outside your country be able to give you information about what's going on, because they are really slowly closing off the information both inside and outside. And it's important for there to be also the channel the other way, where people in America can get the information out to the rest of the world about what's going on. Like, I have seen kind of what's been going on my FYP in Portland and stuff like that slowly pop up, but it's not on my news because most Canadian news, short of CBC, is all owned by American companies. So Canada is getting the same propaganda that you guys are at this moment. Trump's spreading it everywhere.
If you think the size of the Fox News empire, along with Sinclair in radio, is worrisome, then you should really be worried that CNN and CBS are now joining that firmament. If you are worried about TikTok, you should also be worried about the fact that Meta is playing right along with them. No need to take over Meta. They've already bent the knee. That just leaves YouTube to complete the trifecta. And then when you take major entertainment studios like Paramount and you merge them with Warner and you merge that with Discovery, which, by the way, Warner and Discovery have already been merged. Paramount and CBS have already been merged along with Skydance. This becomes terribly worrisome. Now, why was this unthinkable before? It was unthinkable for two different reasons. It was unthinkable because the FCC would never have allowed any of this to occur, and because the antitrust division of the Department of Justice would never have allowed that to occur. And once this occurs, and it already has, these mergers have taken place. CBS just got a brand new head of the CBS News, who is a right-wing fanatic, already in place because CBS is owned by Paramount. When you have this occur, you have an almost impossibility of breaking it up later on. I mean, what is a future Department of Justice going to do? Launch an antitrust investigation? All CBS, Paramount, Fox, CNN, CBS, they're all now under one big cloud. All they have to do is go to the judge and say, wait a second. When we merged, the FCC gave the okay to this. When we merged, the Department of Justice said it was okay. There was no antitrust issue, but with the Department of Justice, how can you say there's one now? That's a damn good argument. So that is what makes this dangerous, and that is why there should be more voices in what is left of independent media talking out about how dangerous it is. And by the way, I'd be saying the same thing if it was all owned by a left-winger too. It is dangerous to allow the sources of information, entertainment, and social media to unite and then be controlled by one political persuasion. That is unbelievably dangerous and is antithetical to the American experience and to democracy writ large.
You're right. And that's one of the things, like, I realized, like, when the whole Kimmel thing happened, and they were talking about Sinclair and the other one that weren't gonna show him, that weren't gonna air him when he did come back on. And I remember Bex and Juju they weren't sure whether or not they were gonna get to see it, so I looked it up, and I was looking at the stations and how it's crazy how in some sections in certain states they own a CBS station. Some of them they own an ABC station. Some of them they own different ones. And when you have people like that who get to use their political fifis to determine what you get to watch on TV, that is a huge problem, Scott. You're right. And I don't think so many people don't understand how important it is that the media be able to talk about what they're supposed to. Like my news, WRAL, they covered that whole thing about how they talked about how there's only a few companies that actually own the rights to most of the media in what is it, 6, I think? They said 6, and they did breakdowns. It was like 6 in one part, 3 in another part. And they were talking about how that, can directly affect what people get to see. And I was so thankful that my news station covers stuff like that, because I know they're not. They even showed that thing. I don't know if anybody else has seen it here on TikTok, where they show all of the different news stations all over that are owned by like Sinclair and these other groups, all saying the same exact thing about a story, and they show multiple TVs with all these different news stations airing, and they're all saying the same thing. So if you start them all at the same time, you can literally have 50 stations across the country talking about the same exact thing in the same exact way, regardless. That is really scary, y'all. You guys saw that?
Yeah, Kia, and don't underestimate the importance of controlling entertainment as well. That is subtle indoctrination. Our movies, television shows, streaming services can subtly indoctrinate the American people. And that is just as dangerous as having Fox News, CBS, CNN, all of radio nowadays, or the vast majority of it, is controlled by the right wing forces. And this is very dangerous stuff. This is unprecedented territory. There is no parallel in American history to this. None. And it's occurring right now. Most of these consolidations have already taken place and already been approved without a peep of anybody saying too much about it.
Eva asked on the tube, how is it done in the UK? Aren't all their channels state run? Does anybody know?
Don't
I
think so.
I don't think so. I'm not sure, but I don't think so. The BBC doesn't control everything.
No, I don't think so. I think similarly to Canada, like the BBC, ours is called CBC. That's a government run like channel, and by that I mean like they receive their funding from our federal government, and BBC, I believe, is the same in the US or in the UK. I'm not an expert because clearly I'm not a British citizen, but I believe they also, just like us, have newspapers that are bought and sold on the stock market. Same with that their media of all facets. And this is what makes it dangerous to have these huge conglomerates and then also have them being able to be bought and sold on the stock market, is that you no longer have any semblance of control about the influence of who is going to be the majority shareholder of that company and what their intentions are for that media source. I've seen it more and more as COVID started, and then as it continued on since 2020. I don't watch news in Canada anymore because all short of CBC, because every other news station, and that includes our newspapers and everything, you can see the right wing tilt. You can see the influence that the American companies that own these are trying to persuade the people of. Here in Canada, you can see the tilt and the slant of how they even choose to do titles on newspapers, or how the news people that I used to love and watch, how they choose to slant stories now. And I can't watch it because I'm like, this isn't authentic or genuine news anymore. It's garbage. I might as well just go watch some reality TV show. I'm getting just as much information.
And sadly, it doesn't stop there.
Mm-hmm.
We already are talking about the sources of our culture being held by one viewpoint, the news, social media, but it goes further than that. We're seeing the intimidation of universities. We're seeing the major law firms in the country bending the knee. The very essence, the sinews of our civic culture are being compromised as we speak. This is dangerous stuff, folks. I cannot emphasize that enough. It's unbelievably dangerous.
And unfortunately, I think the biggest problem, especially when it's come to news and things like the headlines and the way they skew things, is our economy, specifically our news, social media, things like that, are now run by an algorithm. Everything everyone says is completely based on what will push what you talk about in an algorithm. I mean, it's something that I deal with. I see people that have the same amount of followers, if not less, on here that just take their stuff and throw it in other places too, and they're skyrocketing because they are willing to say things that will enrage people and push the algorithm where I won't. I think it's important that we do what we're doing. I was talking with Scott about this yesterday. I think it's important that I do what I do here. I think what I'm doing here is the way that we as a country need to move forward. Truly, we need to get past this whole living based on an algorithm thing. But it also requires a lot more work to get, to grow, because my algorithm doesn't get pushed. My content doesn't get pushed the same way that people like Dean and G Good Trouble and all them do.
Mike, what you do is disseminate information. And disseminating information is not always sexy or clickbait. And that does make it tougher to do what you do. It makes it harder. But it also is more worthwhile because there's honest exchange of views. And we're seeing less and less of that throughout our media environment. And the thing that's scary, folks, is when you have one side, any side, I don't care what your political point of view is, when one side controls the methods and content of the information which you live your life by, that is, by definition, dangerous.
Hey, Scott, just a reminder, sorry, commercial time.
Well, folks, you just heard some of it. As always, a fascinating conversation.
Hang on, Scott. I see the question on Mike's face. I see what you're looking at, what I just did. I don't know if you've paid attention that throughout this entire time that Elaine has been here, just myself, I've said to her 3 times. Theory also, before she left, told her you have been asked multiple times not to use caps.
That's fine. That's fine.
Brianna
I was just
and everybody else did, and that's why I made sure I put it in there. She has refused to follow rules, and she has stepped all over the boundaries.
That's fine.
And I make it fair for everybody, whether you're friendly or not.
Yep.
No caps.
All right.
Okay. Well, folks, this has been certainly a far-reaching conversation, but what else is new? It usually is on here, and that's why we are all thankful for your host, Mike. He's the one who makes this all possible. And if you take a look in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, you're going to see Mike's name. But that's not what I want you to focus on. I want you to focus on that little orange heart right next to him, and I want you to tap on that heart. And I think most of you know what's going to happen. A box is going to drop down. And on the right-hand side of that box, you're going to see 6 small rectangular boxes. Some will be blank. Pay no attention to those. But some will be shaded in black. And what are you supposed to do, folks? You know the answer. Tap on those black boxes. That way Mike gets points. But we live in a society where we want something too, so guess what? You get it. You get the same amount of points that Mike gets. Now, what type of deal is that? I've never heard of a deal that good. But here you can have it, and you can have it in 5 seconds. Now, folks, don't forget about the Discord. That's where members of the community can opine on any subject they wish to. They share favorite recipes, a great thing they saw on Netflix, a good book they just read, or politics. Doesn't matter what you want to talk about. You can talk about anything. Don't forget the Substack. A lot of you people have been forgetting the Substack. We're going to come after you if you don't pay attention to Substack. Folks, Substack is where Mike opines on a subject of the day that he finds interesting. He encourages your responses. And here's the best part. Some people like to read. Some people like to listen to it. You get to choose. It's really fun, folks. I think you'll enjoy it. Last but certainly not least, Mike's been putting an awful lot of work into the tube. Please pay attention to it. I would strongly encourage you to subscribe to it. And if you haven't listened to some of the long form content, I got a deal for you. And what's the deal? Just listen to one of them. Just anyone you want. Listen to one of them. His guests are always interesting people. They're always informed people. And as you've already gathered, Mike is always interesting and informed. So that way, how can you go wrong? Pick one, listen to it. I guarantee you'll be back for more.
Thanks, Scott. And by the way, Kia, you don't
You're
ever
welcome.
fully have to explain. You just say there was good reason for it. I believe you. I know you pay attention.
Yeah, and for those of you guys in chat, I want you guys just to be clear. The reason why I do it, I want it to be fair, because I'm not going to sit there and tell somebody just because we don't like what they're saying that they can allow not use caps, but then people that are agree with us do. I'm real big on boundaries and respecting boundaries. When you get asked not to do something and then you continue to do it, it tells me you don't give a fuck about the rules, you don't give a fuck about the boundaries, and you think that whatever you have to say is more important than listening to what other people have said to you multiple times. And I don't get down like that. Every single one of us puts on our drawers the same way, 1 foot at a time, unless you don't have legs or hands. Then there might be something different. But to be fair, that I will always treat you all the same, whether you are somebody that comes in here every day or if you've never been here before. I keep it the same for everybody. You may not like what I always say, but you can't say I'm not fair.
P-Sizzle Substack is a separate app / website.
And if I do boundaries, I maintain boundaries with my family. If I'm gonna maintain boundaries with the person that I came out of, I damn sure gonna make sure that boundaries get kept on the internet with people I don't know.
Yep. But yeah, it's
Isn't ShamWow that product you wax your car with?
I think so.
Oh, Vonda wants me to look up ShamWow.
But yeah, so like I said, I'm doing a lot of work on the YouTube because, and it's pulled back the Substack a little bit just because I'm really trying to. We don't know what's going on here. We've said this before. We don't know what's going on here with whatever sale or whatever is going on, and that's why, this is about the short form and the lives. That I want to be about lives, but also the long form content. But I also put the short stuff in. Like there's so much going on over there. Like what you see here is what you're getting over there, except you're getting more stuff. So I hope you get to talk. I messaged Haley. I haven't heard back from her, but I'm sure she's busy. So I'm not. And I think I may have figured out why it's been freezing, but I can't fix it while I was live. So, it's like eBay for digital content. Yeah. I mean, I have put all my short form content there, put long form content, which I can't put here. And yep, same name. Yep. And then I go live there. And you don't have to worry about comments being filtered, which is nice. I wish everyone could go over there because it would be sweet. Yeah. I appreciate you guys, though. I appreciate those of you that watch all my content, that watch it all on all of the. There are a few of you, or more than a few. There are many of you that watch the same short form videos here on TikTok, on Tube, on Insta, everywhere, and like it and engage with it, and I appreciate you guys so much for doing that. Yes, I've started on Insta too because
I was just going to say, when did that
just
start?
recently, if it can push more, if I can post the short form clips and it can push more people to watch the long stuff on YouTube, I gotta do it. I gotta do it right now, because the only way that I'm going to be able to do this for a living is if I get enough growth and people watching the stuff, because It's a lot of, I'm putting in 3 hours. I'm putting in an hour almost every day just recording, and then I got to edit, and then I got to make all the stuff, and then I got to post all the things, and it's a lot of work. And
But I think it makes sense though, because the IG is perfect for that. Because people go to IG for short, quick, not long stuff, long form content. There, it's in and out real quick. And if you got something that's quick that catches their attention, I think it's a perfect way to. Oh, I wonder what else he's got. And you say, follow me on all the places, and I've got long form content here. I think that's definitely going to help. I think it's smart. Great job. I'd love to see you grow. And sorry you guys have had to deal with my commercials for the last 2 days because Scott wasn't with us.
and Aaron, you don't need to apologize for not going to Insta. I don't want to go to Insta. It's the last thing I wanted to do was give Meta any of my support, but it's the world that we live in. If I could get enough people any other way, I would do it. I would be the happiest person on the planet to never have to post there anymore.
And just let me reiterate before Mike goes off, folks, there is a second reason to get used to using the tube over there for Mike's content, and he just touched upon it. We don't know what's going to happen here on TikTok. We don't know. The board of directors has apparently been named, and it's a little bit scary to think who the board of directors is. So we don't know what the future is. So please, if for no other reason than just get used to being over there, please check out what he has on YouTube. Please just give it a look-see. If you're not used to it, you'll get used to it very quickly. If somebody like me can get used to it, believe me, you can get used to it.
For Pets, it's interesting. So you say, what is your favorite? It sort of depends. So for what I'm doing here on the podcast, yeah, I would say the tube is the best. That is not to say the other places can't get better. Like Substack, you can do lives, but they don't. It's really limited. Like it's almost like they just added it, and they can't really do much. In terms of if I thought I could get people to come and I could actually grow, Twitch, the Purple app, is actually the best designed for streamers, but I can't grow doing a podcast over there. So in terms of the one that is currently set up best for what I'm doing in its entirety, yeah, the tube is the best. So
I'm just gonna say I'm kind of glad you're on Insta now because I can share your stuff from Insta to my Facebook, which is where I actually have more followers. So it makes it easier for me because we know Meta doesn't like it when you share stuff that's not Meta.
yeah.
They make sure nobody can see it.
But in the end, the goal over there is to get to the point where I can monetize. That's the goal at this point.
How close are you to your watching time?
I am about a third of the way there.
Okay, well, in honor of Canadian Thanksgiving weekend this weekend, can everybody do me a solid and go and watch it? Go listen to 2 episodes that you haven't heard on Mike's YouTube. Can everybody do that for me in honor of Canadian Thanksgiving, because it is now absolutely going to be freezing here right away.
Jeez, I didn't know you guys had a Thanksgiving.
What?
Yeah,
You're joshing with me, right? Like,
yeah, well, not for long.
like
We're coming.
it's
We're coming.
We're coming. You're coming to change our Thanksgiving. Is that what we're coming to?
Oh, we'll do away with that. That'll be the first thing. You're gonna have to
good.
have our
We'll have
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving in like the end of November, like when it's super crazy cold, minus like 25 Celsius, and everything is frozen, and you can't have a harvest celebration because there's no food because it's still stuck.
All right, guys. It's past 12, so I got stuff I got to do today, and I got a recording I got to do today. So actually, it's cool. I'm going to be interviewing someone who's running for governor in Colorado. So it should be like I said. There's a lot of cool things coming up. Thank you for everyone who's up in the box with me. Again, it's always a great conversation. For everyone else, thank you for the likes, the shares, the gifts. Thank you for everyone that went over to the tube and gave their thumbs up and hung out over there. Hopefully I can fix the issues that we had over there so it won't be an issue anymore. And just thank you guys. Seriously, thank you, thank you, thank you. I know I keep asking you guys to do more, but just know that being here, watching things if you can, whatever you like, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I just want to be able to keep doing it. And the best way to be able to keep doing it is for you guys to let your friends know. Let your family know if they would be interested in this stuff. So you guys are amazing just the way you are, and I love you all very much. Stay safe, stay healthy. Remember to sing, laugh, dance, smile, do something that makes you happy. Bye, guys.